next 5 away games are tricky in that it's PSV Eindhoven, Bournemouth, Everton, Manchester City, and Aston Villa. I would like to get that little batch of games out the way. PSV is obviously not important, I think, but the other 4 Premier League games could all in their own way be very difficult. Bournemouth are doing really, really well, and David Moore is probably giving Everton a lift, and obviously City and Aston Villa are what they are, isn't it? So I think we get them out the way. But I would like to win all 4 because I wouldn't like to have to listen to the negativity should we draw one of those 4 difficult games. So let's make sure we win them all, eh?
Yeah, it's. I don't know if you remember the way the ground was back in the year where Rafa had us competing to a pretty high level. 08, 09 was the season, and I remember being in the ground a few times, and there was a high level of angst. I think it was because we were so close to doing something we hadn't done for so long. And there was one stage, there was a home draw, and it meant we were top of the league. But the atmosphere at the final whistle was almost an atmosphere of defeat. And I can kind of understand it to an extent. People are so desperate for it to happen. That you can understand sometimes that kind of thing creeping into the ground. But this is just generally online, everywhere else. I'm seeing this kind of, I don't know. Do you think, here's the theory I have for you. Do you think that we have an awful lot of, as a fan base, an awful lot of mental damage by all the City escapades over the last couple of years, all the close run things, being pipped at the post again and again, and losing Champions League finals and that type of thing? Do you think that perhaps that's a kind of a reason for why people go so negative so quickly?
Yeah, probably. It would certainly have an impact. So obviously we had it with City for a few years, and in the last 2 seasons, Arsenal's had it with City, isn't it? And I do think it drains you, and it forces you all the time. You can never relax. You can never just relax for a week. I know you should say you never relax in football, but you can never relax when you're up against City. So it does strain you in a way that nothing else does. But I also think that the big thing we have, Trevor, is always is evidence, isn't it? And if you look at the games, look at what you're seeing, then I just can't see it. I can't see us dropping enough points from now to the end of the season. Yes, I can see us losing another game, and I can possibly see it drawing another 3 or 4. But that won't be enough points, because that would require then what? Somebody said yesterday, Arsenal to get to 90 points, I think they need to win 15 and draw 1 of the last 16. They almost did it last year, but they looked a lot better last year than what they did this year. And Manchester City, as I said before, I'm still not having them, Trevor, without the ball. I think they're so vulnerable. So, look at what we got. And that gap could quickly be 9 points, Trevor. I would like to play football being 9 points clear, with all that pressure off. If you can't see something like that over the line, then there's something wrong in it. But I firmly believe this group and this manager can.
I have a similar quiet confidence myself, but obviously, like I say, it's not a feeling shared by everybody. So many people are so quick to get to that sort of fatalistic, it's gone or whatever. All it took for it was for Arsenal to close the gap a little bit, and people's heads went. But yesterday evening should surely prove, or whenever the hell it was, the evening before, should surely prove to everybody that there's a long, long way to go in this, and things can go very much for you as well as against you. That result Arsenal had, I think, was remarkable. And what we saw in that, just by way of examining how people can be very tribal, what we saw in that afterwards, it's actually fascinating to me. There was a whole, again, I know you spared yourself this, but there was a whole day of Arsenal fan accounts popping up the video of the handball and saying, show me where it touches his hand. And what was happening, Jan, was people were just sending the other camera angle where it could not be clearer that it touches their hand. I actually saw 1 or 2 of them go, oh, okay. But most of them stuck in their heels and say, no, it doesn't. I mean, people are literally saying what they can see with their own eyes isn't there. That is very much just the nature of the modern fan. Or was it always like that, do you think, that people who are literally tell you black is white?
Yeah, I just sometimes think, Trevor, that when you've been involved in a game and it goes either way, surely the best way is just to go down the pub and have a pint with your lads or go home and get away from it all. Like this sort of rush to share your experiences on social media, I just don't share that. I understand that there'll be a whole new generation of people who don't know anything different in it, but I get away from it as quick as I can. If I worked in London, I quite enjoy the drive back. Very rarely will I ever listen to Talk Sport on there because I don't believe anything good comes from it. I'll just listen to a bit of music and get away from it. By the time I get home, the wife goes, "What?" I said, "Yeah, whatever. It is what it is, and we go on to the next one, isn't it?" And it's like I was exactly the same as a player. People said, "What were you like as a player when you lost?" I said, "More or less the same as when we won." You move on to the next one because there's nothing you can do about what has just happened. So we move on. We get rid of it. I know people always want and expect players to be moping around for hours or days. It doesn't get you anywhere. On we go to the next one.
I think you're so right. My reaction, win or lose, is I'm sorry, but once the football is over and my show is done, I'm going to go and watch a movie and enjoy what's left of the day. That's just the way I think to keep yourself sort of mentally right. You can't be wallowing in it like I see people doing for hours. I'll pick up my phone 6 hours and they're still going strong at it. I'm like, wow, lads, I do not have that kind of energy. Although I have to say, man, I'm very, very impressed with the summary there of don't watch TalkSport, nothing good can come of it. I could not agree with you more. It's a tremendous observation. We have a game to look back over, a very dominant display where, as you said, there was 37 odd shots for the Reds, some 8 or 9 of them on target. And I think even something like where Dom hits the crossbar. I think crossbars and posts don't count as shots on target. We had quite a bit of the ball, 62%, nowhere near the same pass count as we've had in recent games, which is odd, but probably speaks to the possession as much as anything else. But I just thought it was a very, very solid display. I know a lot of people were worried and continue to be worried about us sort of fraying at the edges a little bit. There was some talk that, the likes of Gravenberg might need a couple of games to step out, and we don't really have the trusted personnel, it seems, there in terms of the manager's assessment of players to step in. That is a worry, and I think that's why so many people would love to see the midfield signing that we've wanted for a couple of years coming in, likely not this window, but soon. And there was always the talk then about the left-back situation. If Costas doesn't have a particularly good outing, people start to get a little bit nervous because I think it's increasingly apparent that maybe Robertson is sort of on the wane a little bit. That's my opinion. Yeah, and you may not agree with that at all. I just think it's going to be hard for him to do what he has done on a regular basis. He just doesn't seem to have that level of motor in him anymore. And it could be just unfortunate, but he has been sort of front and centre for a couple of the concessions that we've had recently as well. So there are a couple of areas of the team that have people worried. Believe it or not, Jan, a couple of people were even worrying about Ali because he'd conceded a number of the shots on target since his return to the team. Do you see areas that are of concern for us going forward in the team that might need addressing this window?
Well, I mean, this window, if you want to be, and make absolutely sure, then of course you get yourself a centre half, a left back, and a defensive midfield. That's not going to happen. We're not going to buy any. I think the club feels that we got this far with this group of players. Gravenberg will just have to play through this. It's a bit like when I used to play. The season where you play 60 games a year, when you feel a bit, you play through that. I think Ryan Gravenberg will have to do exactly the same. I agree with Robbo. And I think when it happens to a footballer, you kind of know that he's not coming back. The way I used to be, what I had, is not coming back. So if I'm going to survive in the game at the highest level, I have to play in a different way. The thing with Austin Simicaz is that I think we've convinced ourselves that he's probably not good enough. But when he comes in and plays well, we can live with that. But of course, it's the moments like the first 10 or 15 minutes against Brentford on Saturday. It's those moments where you go, well, where he's not good enough. And probably long term he isn't. So it's an area where we'll have to have a little bit of a look at strengthening somebody. But as far as this window goes, Trevor, I would be amazed if we did any business.
Sadly, I agree with you, man. I do agree with you. It seems to be already getting floated out there, and there's a pattern where, we're linked with these players, and it's looking very positive. And then one of the big journals says something, and then the other one, it's either Joyce and Ornstein or vice versa. And then, what do you know? Some other club are interested. And we get one of the local boys like Jimmy Pierce saying, yeah, Liverpool won't be making any progress or following up any interest in X, Y, or Z.